Hi there, so I figured I'll do a little tutorial for you because I sometimes get questions about me using watercolor and how I use watercolor, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the first washes that I do. As you can see, I just lay down first wash with my colors. I got a little pocket-sized watercolor set, nothing really fancy, and yeah, so I usually do this two ways. I either go in with very much water and color in lightly, or I use it very pigmented. It depends on the effect that I want to get. Usually when I am laying down the first wash, I try to make it not as opaque, to just get a feel for the colors. The only thing that's left on this particular one is the mouth area and the stomach area, and I just mixed a little bit of ochre with yellow, and I'm just lightly tapping over it. As you can see, you have a little bit of color left here. I usually dab it off. I have a cloth here, and I just usually kind of dab it and dab the excess paint on my cloth. So that's how I do this, and depending on if I want any textures in here, I would do textures. This is not what I want to do, so this is the first how I usually use washes. And the second thing I wanted to show you is just doing this opaque. So I have this dark brown color, and I try to work in sections with watercolor because you can get really cool effects on wet paint. And I am making the face right now, which is probably not the first thing I would want to do, because if you mess up the face, I think the whole thing is ruined. So this is how I start out with, and then I clean my brush in water and put the brush on the paper towel to make it a little bit drier, and then I kind of swoop, and I always pad the excess color on my paper towel. Once I and as I said, try to just work in sections here, and it can give you really cool dry brush effects. I want to lighten the area of the eyes a little bit, and sometimes I just like to here, and sometimes I like to even get a little bit of color, and kind of where I want it to be darker, also add that in there while the paint is still wet, so it blends a little bit better. I want a little bit under the eyes and under the cheekbones. I always try, even in this stage, to think about my planes of the head. It's not really different to humans. It's not really too different from humans because I draw my characters anthropomorphic, which really helps this out. So we have kind of a round plane from this eye to indicate the forehead, and we have a plane that divides the head into a 3D object. This is here. So what I will do there is add a little bit of black to my pen. I always add my brush, and I always try to look how much pigment I have on my brush before I actually dab it on my painting, because with black you can easily go too much with black, and black watercolor is really hard to remove, so I'm trying to just do little strokes, and of course I shade where the head meets the eye, where the head meets the mouse's plane. And I go in with a little bit of water because I have a hard line right here that I don't want, and I just put a little tiny bit of water where this was, and then it just kind of fades out to where I want it to be, because when you work wet and wet you can always push around the colors a little bit. So I will let this dry and see if I like how it dried. If I liked how it dried, it's done, and I move on to the next section. If I don't, I can always make more shadows and even some lighter tones after it's dry.